on how you use stats and film together to show a player where they need to improve. So the first was off-ball screen. He gets a good look. Something that he's going to have to do in the NBA level is knock down that jump shot off the move, which he didn't really do well in Kentucky. Another aspect is off the dribble here. There's obviously high pick and roll situations in the NBA all the time. He has that quick pull-up jump shot that was off balance, and that's something that he's going to have to improve on. So this is stuff that I would show the player right now, while it's the off season, on stuff that we need to improve. And this film just kind of backs it up and gives the players a better visual. And then if you can compare that with Jason Tatum and what he did at Duke, but then also his first year in Boston, you can really see the difference when you look at the numbers of what kind of player he was. At Duke, he was more of a back-to-the-basket post player that would get some looks from three, and the Celtics really kind of changed him to be more of a perimeter player where he was getting a lot of off-ball screen situations, but then also a lot of pick-and-roll situations where he had to make that jump shot, where maybe in college he couldn't really absorb that contact. Where here now in the NBA, you see the kind of hesitation move, step back, and he hits a contested jump shot. So just in review, again, it's just, you need to have these conversations if you're an analyst or if you're a coach about what's kind of important to know, what you want to know from a game-by-game basis, or what do you want to know on your players. And that's, again, that's just the first step. When you can do that, then when you know what the coach wants, then you can answer that why question with film and stats. And then you should be showing your players analytics on even a small level. If you can back it up with film, in player development, that makes for a much more effective way to develop your players. And there you can follow me on Twitter, send me any emails with any comments or questions. But right now, if you guys have any other questions, I'd love to answer them. Yep.
In your experience, how accepting are the players of the analytics review and the film review? At the college level, do you feel like they're more accepting than maybe at the pro level, or?
Yeah, I think they're more accepted at the pro level. I haven't dealt with really any pro players right now, but what I had at Loyola and what I'm currently doing right now with college athletes, they're much more accepting of it when it's information on themselves, and then when they can see film and I can tell them that number while the film's going on. It's stuff that they can see and actually then apply when we go on the court then next. It's an easier message for them to understand when it's not just you're throwing a number at them. Yeah. Go ahead.
Do you have a way that you filter and condense the film that you watch so that you're not spending hours and hours and hours?
Yeah, so that's definitely the problem, is the amount of time you spend watching film. And that's so I'll watch every single clip of Kevin Knox from every shot that he took this past year at Kentucky. And then when I'm watching it, if he does a move that I liked or something that I think, all right, we need to work in that area, I highlight it and I'll go back to it after the report's done and get that clip from Synergy. And after watching 450 shots, there's a good 30 or 40 clips that I have to filter from. And it's kind of just more so, it's good to have, different, I like how Synergy does it with different play types, and the more obviously film you have, the better.
So you said the film helps you interpret the numbers.
Yep.
I was kind of wondering if it might go the other way. Do the
so
numbers help you pick on what part of film you need to pay the most attention to?
Yep, so you kind of need to work backwards to start, because like how I was doing it with Loyola, when they would play, their first game was against Miami in the tournament. I didn't know anything about Miami. The coaches really didn't know anything about Miami, so they would tell me to get these numbers. And first off, I kind of had to identify what each guy in their team really was good at or bad at. So you got to go back into the box scores or into the other kind of stats on synergy and kind of look at what, it's all kind of content driven. You know, you can make better assumptions when they've taken X amount of shots or they've done X amount of, you know, plays in that system. But you definitely need to work backwards, and it helps, the film side is helped when you know the stats of the players, for sure. But you can draw better conclusions with film, and like, again, you can get new stats that aren't on those websites because the people just don't want to take the time to watch all that film. That's what it comes down to.
Have you ever had to deal with a time where like what you watch on film doesn't really match up with like the numbers Synergy's providing you? Like say like a pick and roll situation. Let's say Synergy has, like if the guy comes within a certain area of the ball handler on the court, but doesn't really stay to set the screen, and then it has the guard using that screen and the shooting percentage is off a little bit. Is there like any differences that you've noticed and that you've had to deal with?
Yeah, a little bit there on how they filter their clips, but also like when it comes, especially with pick and roll situations, is what Loyola wanted to know, like everything about like how to defend that. So there was a number of different ways that I was already coding that already. So I kind of made more of a filter than Synergy did. I had more, whether it was going over or under, or switching, you know, different scenarios and how to defend ball screens. So obviously Synergy could filter more of their clips like that, but obviously that just takes more time to do. Was that your question?
Yeah.
Did you get any off-season tasks from Loyola?
Yeah, so I've got some reports with me if anyone else wants to. I know you probably couldn't see any of those reports on there. If you guys want to see some of the reports that I did for Loyola, definitely come talk to me after. They wanted me to do some player development stuff. I kind of approached it to them because I had already done that, and when they saw one, they said, hey, let's get 3 or 4 more done for these players that are returning. So it was all really kind of watching, you know, every shot that their individual player took, and kind of in those situations, whether it's late shot clock or pick and roll, off the dribble, it's spot areas where they can improve on. Obviously they know their offensive system and what kind of plays they run for that individual person, but kind of identifying those weaknesses for those individual players that are coming back, so they can obviously improve on next year, even though this year they did pretty well.
And follow up to that, maybe the media made a big hype about their turning the threes and layups on a deer and saying they were the king of the mid-range, right? And
yeah.
Did your analytics confirm that and actually contribute to that, or?
So I didn't do a lot for them offensively because I was so busy doing stuff defensively, which was, I was totally okay with that, but also they had a lot of just good mid-range shooters in general, like good you know, shooters off the dribble to start with. So they've got a good, you know, good couple sets that they run, and their offense is really efficient, and they've got really good personnel to do it with and play inside outside. So I didn't have to do much for them offensively. It was more review after like 4 games or 12 games. Hey, here's how this individual is shooting, and here's the kind of shots he's getting, kind of a thing on the offensive end.
From a staffing perspective, how many of you are typically employed on a team like Loyola compared to like a Kentucky?
Right, so that's the problem with college right now, and that's what I'm seeing. It's starting to trickle down. I'm starting to see more analysts being hired full-time just for basketball, and that's a position I'm trying to get right now. It really depends on the coach, because these bigger schools have the resources, but how badly does that coach really need an analyst? So if the coach doesn't really care about analytics too much, well, that's, you know, there's no position for an analyst there. But obviously a team like Loyola, it was just me doing it for the whole season, and I wish they could, you know, have someone like me on full time, because obviously I loved working with the staff, and especially a head coach that, you know, used this analytics and talked it during practice to the players, and it was just really cool to see on a whole season basis how a coach can implement a whole new system like this that I put in place for them. So it's trickling down in the Power 5 ranks, but you know, it's kind of team by team, They definitely have the resources to do it though.
Calipari obviously has the resources, but he may or may not be on board.
Yeah, it's weird too, because they hide those positions, because I know someone that does analytics for Kentucky, but that's not his position title, so I know other assistants are doing detailed stats, not this level of detail when it comes to film, but every staff does have a couple people that are into it for sure.
Kentucky hiding something? Is that?
No, I didn't say that.
How did you get connected to Loyola, and like how did you like get into there?
So my coach at Lewis is friends with Porter at Loyola, and really it was just an introduction. After he introduced me, it was more so, hey, this is what I can do, here's what I can provide to your team, and from there, the coach makes a decision whether he likes this stuff or wants it, you know, on his staff or not. And you know, I was there for every home game, doing some live stats, but most of the stuff was, because I didn't go to Loyola, was part of the problem, which I thought was pretty unique. But really just got hooked up through my coach at Lewis, and then I blew the door wide open. Yep.
Your access to game film,
Yep.
was that through Loyola's basketball program
Yep.
to the database of all games?
Yeah, so
uploaded?
Synergy, like if I have, they gave me their, you know, login, their access, but you know, they have, you can buy access to any college, any NBA film that you want. It's all on their system. It's really nice how, you know, how they break it down. And then also another one is Sports Code. I'm sure some of you are familiar with it. A way to kind of code your own system, where Synergy does it one way, but Sports Code, they let you do it, you know, on your own, so I can filter any clip how I want it. So I could have 20 variables for one clip, and then when I'm done watching all 500 clips, they're already filtered out for me. So Sports Code's a nice system that would help me out a lot if I had access to it. How many people work in college athletics right now? Okay. Any other questions?
Very good, let's.
Thanks.